Welcome to the Dr. Sam Mugzzi Show. We are advancing the paradigm shift with attitude. Special guests, new realities, quantum physics, health, psychic readings, and so much more. We are glad you have joined us. Sit back and take a ride on the Higher Consciousness Freeway. Seatbelts are optional.
I have a special guest tonight. It's one of my dear friends, one of my camaraderie women that's out there and helping to bring in this shift of higher consciousness. And I couldn't be prouder that she's on the show. And we're also going to have some fun. We're going to do some things that other radio hosts aren't doing because it's important for us to laugh, to look at history, but also to be brave enough to go to the next level of our consciousness training with friends, humor, and intellect. And Laura Eisenhower is just the epitome of that. So I'm so happy she's here tonight and can share all of her stories. And we're going to make her laugh, okay? So I want to introduce to you guys Laura Eisenhower. Hi, Laura.
Hi there. Good to be here.
Oh, you scared me.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay? Awesome.
Yeah,
it's so great to be here. It's a really sweet intro. I'm really grateful for our connection.
Oh, you know, it really, even though we don't talk that much, and I'm sure other people out there are going to resonate with it, you don't have to always talk to somebody just to know that they have your back or that they're there for you or that you guys are fighting for the same mission. It's just, it's kind of an uncanny situation, but the bond is strong, and I really appreciate you as a woman getting out there and speaking your truth and being consistent with what you're saying. I love that about you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay,
yeah,
so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's important to, be consistent, especially with being flexible with truth.
Well, and we've seen over the years a lot of radio guests come and go, and you're one of those people that have just stuck in there, and everything that you said, even though in the beginning everybody thought you were crazy, but it's like, oh, now scientists are agreeing. Oh, now the chemists are agreeing. It's kind of funny, don't you think?
Yeah. I figured it would all end up working out because it is, definitely what's happening, and so many different things are lining up to kind of really hit the point home. So a lot of people have kind of come back and apologized for name-calling me in the beginning, but that's fine. I appreciate, the fact that people are willing to still have an open mind when they first shut the door.
Yeah, and I know with myself, I'm guilty of it, where you just, sometimes you think that you know it, and then your paradigm gets cracked a week later, and you're humbled. And I think after doing that a couple of times, you realize, okay, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and watch.
Right.
Do you do that too? I mean, I want to start the 5D comedy hour where we can look at some of the stinking thinking that we had, and now looking at it, we can actually laugh at ourselves. I was wondering, from your level, your style of life, your family connections, what that you're comfortable with sharing, what have you done that now you look back and you go, wow, I was really stinking thinking?
Oh, you mean just like my whole perception shifted because of something new I found out, you mean?
Yeah, I have a really good one. I was wanting to a friend of mine saying, God, I want to get out of the house. I want to meet friends. I don't want to work on the internet all the time. I want to get out. I want to get out. And as soon as I was quiet, he said, well, then leave the house. And I went, nope. It is that easy. You know, but sometimes you don't see it when you're just right up close and personal. So something like that you did where you like created your own cage or your own limitations, and then you found out, oh, I don't have to do that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can think of quite a few things. I mean, it almost connects to what you just said. just kind of like feeling like the need to hide out and the need to just shelter, and some of the ways that I guess I interact with energy outside of me. I've liberated myself quite a bit. I mean, I think we find that the awakening process liberates our consciousness, but we can't have our consciousness liberated and still be, holding up or holding ourselves back from, really feeling it on all levels. And I've just really let go. It's easier to go to the grocery store. It's easier to run around and do normal human things and not feel really affected by everything. I feel a lot more neutral. And I think just the way I interact with family, I don't feel like the crazy teenager anymore or the person that's totally projected upon. I found that just on my path, just being true to myself has enabled me to have a lot more self-respect, which has helped me to drop giving a crap what anybody else has to say about me or how I feel at the dinner table or how I might be put in a box by others and how much it doesn't energetically disturb me anymore. I mean, I know that's not quite what you're asking, but I mean, there's all sorts of things that to sort of break me out of a rut, and in those moments, they're so potent, and I'm like, okay, don't forget this, because this feels really, really good compared to feeling constricted and triggered and frustrated, and, and I'm like, I don't need to prove myself to anybody, but at the same time, we're trying to get people to open their eyes, and you have to kind of have some level of credibility behind the things we say. So I think, just this whole process has allowed me to just share what I share, and I came up with a great metaphor of just feeling like I'm at a parade and I'm just throwing candy out to the crowd, and it's not my responsibility who picks it up and eats it. I just need to make it available. And you can take it or leave it. It's not my responsibility to watch what happens after I throw it out there, or not to get bent out of shape about, what happens once the message leaves. And just to, be a resource. I guess those are, some things that have been some great breakthroughs that have kind of helped free me along the way.
Have you noticed that we went from, like, shock and awe of, oh, my God, all this is going on. Then you move into anger. How can they do that? And you get all pissed and volatile. And then you move into this, all right, well, I'm going to sit back and just watch and see what happens. And the next step where I'm actually laughing at it. It's kind of comical.
Yeah.
Did you go through the same process?
Yeah, and it feels almost cyclical. Like a new thing might come in and it'll take me through that same process where at first it's like anger, divine rage, and just, the desire to create justice. And then there's the sort of like pulling myself back a little bit and going through a deep process to see what's going on within me, because the inner and outer work are so linked to each other. And then finding, that tranquility and being the observer and doing what I can to try and, influence some level of empowerment within people. And then, humor. I mean, there's so many times I think of, to my partner, Dr. Green, we should do like a comedy show and really make fun of all this. Not, make fun of the suffering or the abuses that take place, but, poke fun at some of this stuff because we have to laugh. And that's the one thing they don't want. They want us to be stressed out and in fear and in survival. And laughter is just such an amazing medicine. And if one can go from that anger and eventually land at a vibration of laughter, I think that's, alchemy. I think that's when we really prove to ourselves that, hey, we really transformed some energy and really moved some energy, both internally, and we probably, have created a lot of waves outside of ourselves too, because we're constantly emitting vibrations, and we are the most advanced technology, so.
That was something else, too. By the way, I got a thunderstorm, so you might hear cracking in the back. But that was the other thing is, like, people are around me. They don't know what I do for a living or that I'm on the radio or anything. I keep it all quiet. And they're talking about how to convert this catalytic whatever on their car, and they're going to make 12 miles a gallon. And I'll mention, well, I know somebody going to the Mars. And just the look on their face, that's kind of the comedy hour. It's like some of these 3D people that are still stuck in it are so worried about some of these trivial things, where meanwhile, some people are actually going to Mars. And you went to Mars, right?
No, I was recruited to go to Mars. Yeah. I haven't been to Mars, but I was pulled into a program that would have made me a permanent colonist, and I was recruited and very manipulated into being a permanent colonist. And I ended up declining, and that's when all the different whistleblowers and now Captain K, who I think people will find out more about, really back this up and says, hey, yeah, there are colonies on Mars. There is an agenda. And, of course, we hear about Alternative 3, and this was all established during the Eisenhower administration. So I was yanked into it all and was very observant about the names and the people and the technologies mentioned, and basically kept track of everything that I was hearing. And I exposed all that in 2010. But I've never been to the surface of Mars.
But there are people, and Brett Stillings has showed pictures of a Stargate that is actually on the moon. And so, people are using that, popping in and out of Stargates, and yet here we are running buses. We're standing in line to get on that train so we can take a 12-hour trip, 100 miles or something ridiculous, and other people are going through these Stargates and just ending up on other planets or across the country or wherever. I just think that is so funny.
I know it is. There's a whole other world going on. People shuttling around in underground bases at a very rapid speed. Teleportation to other planets, shuttles and ships to other planets that take no time, to get there. And they've got advanced technologies that we see in these science fiction movies, and it's right underneath our nose, and we just play with our smartphones and our iPhones, and we're like, wow, it's so cool, but it's not even close to what is really going on. And of course, they're sitting on all the technology, and that's what the agenda's about, is only some benefit and the rest don't, and we're kept in the dark, and we're not a part of all these advancements, because these advancements are being used to enslave us and to, only benefit the elitists. And that's why I refused to go, because I knew that this was, the game being played. I'm like, no way.
I just have a different perspective because on the technology, I've seen Tesla. I've seen all the technology. I have a good inkling of what's available. But if that technology was made available to everybody right now, we'd be in trouble because we're still dealing with some really dense zombies in the 3D world. And if they were to get their hands on a Stargate, or can you imagine your closet is a Stargate? How many times would you end up with strangers in your bedroom?
Oh, I know. Anybody that has advanced abilities, most people go directly for their ego and go directly for the misuse of power, and this is what the elitists have done. So believe me, and I agree, a lot of people are going to go down the same road that the ones that do have this technology have gone down. And we've seen this with the cataclysms, in Atlantis. It was all that, technological advancements were not in sync with spiritual development. And one ended up, suppressing the other or, creating this massive imbalance. And we just end up self-destructing each time. And you'd think by this point we would have learned our lessons. And so I see that there's a necessity in keeping this technology from the masses, but even on the inside, in the shadow governments, the technology is still in the wrong hands. And there is a lot of infighting. Now those that are on the good side, or at least our side, humanity's side, are coming out and willing to speak now, that are under legal authority to be able to speak, because they can't do this battle anymore from the inside. And they know that secrecy is the one thing that allows them to get away with all this. So, a lot of cracks have happened lately.
They hit it right in plain sight, but it's funny because you don't really have to get all pissed off and all fired up about something. You just sit back because the universe is opening up those portals for the truth to come out, and there's keep people in positions to bring that information forward. And I think that is just great that we don't really have to work that hard at making all of this transition. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've gotten over the worst of it. I feel like we've gotten over the tipping point, and enough cracks have happened to allow the light to really shine through. I think a lot of people, when we saw the Occupy movement, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the best approach, but the fact that so many people were involved and so many people were infuriated was a really good sign. And now it's like, okay, well, we can't necessarily go into battle mode and expect to win, but the fact that so many people are conscious and they know that something's, way off, and they're starting to know the names and the institutions and the people and the groups that are behind it, that's excellent. So the next phase is, doing a little bit of inner work and making sure you unplug from the matrix and making sure that you're not enabling these agendas. And I think there's been enough of that happening. And then, yes, we are in a position right now with the planet in alignment with the galactic plane to have these incredible activations and transmissions coming through from the core of this planet, from the galactic center, and it's creating a massive activation for lots of different people. And if you're not getting activated, then more than likely you're distracted, and that tends to expire because there's only so long you can run until something gets real obvious, because we all have deep soul agreements. People wake up when they're ready to, and it's all, based on past lives and different agreements we make. So we have to trust that, people are where they need to be. But, of course, there's going to become a point where if chipping happens and there's massive, control systems put in place that are much more extreme than they are right now, some kind of big revolution, more than likely will take place. It won't necessarily be done through violence, but on some kind of spiritual level that will really allow this energy to pour in, and really what I like to envision and what ends up being a natural vision is it's like the immune system of the planet is boosted, just like the physical body, and everything that just doesn't belong just falls away because the balance is taking place and enough activation of the right forces that are organic are showing up because we're stepping up to the plate. We're not expecting somebody else to come save the day. We're each doing our part. And once enough of us do it, there's a major activation in this organism called Gaia that has a natural response, just like our physical body when we, change our diets or commit to a healthier lifestyle. So I see that happening on the planet, that enough of us have taken those steps, which is benefiting everyone. And it'll end up being like a wave and a ripple effect, which I already feel is happening.
Okay, you mentioned something, but I want to go in a new direction. And then I want to talk to you about your grandmother, because she came to me and she gave me some really good information about you and your family. But it was something that she wanted on the air because it relates to all humanity, and she taught me something new. But I'll bring that up at the latter part of the show. But what I wanted to know is, okay, when you look at Atlantis and what we experienced, we went from Lemuria to Atlantis, and we kept growing and growing. We went from spirituality into almost an industrial technology where the spirituality was kind of ceased. And then, of course, we destroyed ourselves, or we destroyed that game of the Matrix that we were playing at that point. It seems like since then there has been some kind of coding placed into the universe or the Matrix, or however you want to say it. There's some kind of coding where now you have to operate within the paradox. Let me give you an example. If you really, really, really want to be a psychic, and so you get these crystal balls and you get these candles, and so you meditate all the time because you want to be intuitive or a medium, or those people hardly ever get to where they want to go as a medium. But then there's some others, like myself, I didn't want it. It was a pain in the butt. I wasn't fitting in. I didn't like it. I wasn't comfortable with it. And bam, I got slammed. So there seems to be something going on where if you like, for instance, okay, if you want a man in your life, if you need a man in your life to make you, you'll never get him. But when you no longer need a man to make you and you kind of give up on the whole thing, then that's when you meet your man. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Go. I knew you would.
Oh, well, I look at it like there's laws within the artificial matrix that are very just kind of not real. I mean, they're just programmings and conditionings that are set up, patriarchal structures that we deal with. law enforcement and the so-called laws they make and how we're raised and what's expected of us, what are society standards, and then whoever's on the outside of it or whoever takes it to the extreme. And then there's natural laws and cosmic laws that have more to do with how we work with universal forces, things that are beyond this third density. But our DNA has been compromised, and during the time where Atlantis was sinking, this planet was, majorly quarantined, and the interstellar portals were deactivated, and basically our ability to connect with our higher self was majorly affected. And so now a spiritual path represents going through frequency senses. When you're ready to upgrade your DNA, and a person might think, oh, I'm on a spiritual path and I'm just going to expand, they have really no idea what they're getting into, because a lot of the times they hit a wall, and that wall consists of psychic attacks, all sorts of, different sort of things that can throw a person down and really make it feel like, you're going into the dark night of the soul, which is usually what is actually happening. And that's an opportunity to get over those hurdles, to get through those gatekeepers, to get over all these different entities that might, basically be energetically saying you're not allowed past here because we've got this quarantine and you're not allowed to expand past here. There's some benevolent forces that agreed that it was a good idea to help us with our soul development, especially with all these galactic wars. And then there's these intruders and the ones that invaded that don't want us to expand at all and have made it that much more difficult through the programmings and agendas and different conditionings based on patriarchy. So somebody like you probably overcame these frequency fences, or maybe never really had to move through them. You might have made your way around a lot of this stuff in past lives, and so came in with a strong connection to universal laws, where you can psychically see where how you work energy and how you manifest things are more in alignment with a spiritual disposition rather than an unconscious one. Because to me, unconscious energy is spiritual energy that's asleep. Because anytime we're conscious, we're spiritual beings. All of us are. We don't need to glamorize it or use a bunch of weird lingo or dress a certain way to prove it. I mean, that's who we are. We're multidimensional beings. So a lot of people who get lost in New Age deceptions and religions operate under those false laws and basically, are functioning way more through their ego than they realize. Even if it's a self-deprecating ego, it's still not connecting to the heart and soul of the matter, which is intrinsically linked to Gaia and the fact that this is an ascending planet, even though it's been compromised temporarily. Now we're in the window period where we can lift away from it, and that's why a lot of people are finding that the old laws or the artificial matrix laws that have been set up don't really work, and they don't really give us that fulfillment. They might put us in a marriage for years and years and years that's, not made of love. It might help us to find, somebody that we, find interesting for a couple of weeks, but it doesn't help us to relate to sacred union, Heros Gamos, and a lot of what the ancients understood as far as what real alchemical union is about. They screwed with all those grids. They implanted technologies that really affect our ability to manifest this. And so you come in and it's like, what is wrong with this world? And it's got to feel uncomfortable to have these abilities. But thank God you do, because now here you are helping other people to, awaken to them. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Cool. Did you even hear my answer?
I did. We had a huge thunderstorm, and we're having monsoon season right now, and I might lose you again. So, Rose, I did turn on your mic. Quickly, it seems like the same thing happened in Egypt as well, that the consciousness was growing there, that they were accelerating, they were using technology, and then, bam, all of a sudden they got shut down. Do you know anything about that? Yeah, well,
there's a lot of different off-planet stuff going on, particularly because there was an original Atlantis and Lemuria that ended up sinking in density to the planet that we know of today. And so the new Atlantis and Lemuria were based on root races and the sharing of DNA and the sharing of codes in order to upgrade over the course of time. And so the Egyptians were one of the higher civilizations in this whole process. And the beings from Harmonic Universe 2 ended up, in Harmonic Universe 2 is where we used to come from, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. they interbred with members of Atlantis and created the Egyptians, the Serres, Serres Egyptians. And basically they carried the most diversified genetic codes and also related to the pantheon energies, which at that point was the plural god-goddess energies. That's where we hear about Isis, Osiris, and Set, and all these different names. And all their different dramas ended up being like forces of nature, and all the different galactic wars that related to a lot of these different beings, ended up creating all sorts of issues. On one side you have the Law of One followers, and on the other side you have the Anunnaki resistance, and then the Dracos. And the Anunnaki are connected to these pantheons. So it gets really confusing, but where it gets even, I guess, where the biggest shifts happened were where the Ark of the Covenant is concerned, and also some of the different battles and how it changed the alignment of where the planet was. For example, you have the Giza Pyramid in alignment with Sirius, and then it got knocked out and ended up in alignment with Alcyon and the Pleiades. And so we are dealing with so many extraterrestrial races and so many different strains of extraterrestrial genetics, so much hybridization, and basically two different sides, though, service to self or service to others. So with all this incredible diversity, it can really just be brought down to you're either service to self or service to others. You're either out to help develop the human race and help it with its consciousness development, which it should be allowed to do because our original essence or our original embodiments were a very high-level strand of DNA until we sunk into this lower dimension and then ended up getting captured. So the service to self obviously wants us to stay oblivious and to be easily controlled. They don't really have the right to do that, though, and so we're dealing with, trapped souls that are trying to get their power back. But everything really has to do with the vibration of the planet. So where we went wrong is that we're not able to increase the vibration of the planet through our own consciousness because technology ended up taking over. But because there's so much war connected to who has what technology and who's actually running the show, the vibration of the planet ended up not increasing. And so the Ark of the Covenant, which actually holds the sphere right from Andromeda that's supposed to keep this planetary body in a high vibration, was not able to be there anymore. And so that's where it was stored, in the Ark of the Covenant. And whoever watched over it basically had most of the power. And so it ended up in different people's hands. I mean, it's a very complicated history, and I don't think anybody can get it 100%. But the whole point is it represents, the Pyramid of Giza, and where the Ark of the Covenant was is considered the heart chakra of the world, and it's that ley line or that vortex area that enables us to really be connected to our higher self. And when that got off the line and that got knocked out of its placement, that's when we really lost connection to our higher self, and that's when the final sinking of Atlantis took place.
Rose, you might need to sign on because I've got a really bad storm here, and I don't know how long I'm going to be on the air. So call in and be ready. What I was going to say is it seems like there have been certain times in history where this has occurred, where there's been a downswing. And, okay, I know about the regressives, and I know about the aliens that came in, but I just wonder if you stretch your mind and you think out of the box, is there a way that this was actually all planned in order for us to grow more and evolve?
Well,
because a lot of people that I have talked to have actually said that now that they get it, they understand that through this darkness or through these negative constraints or whatever, that it actually made them a better person. And now they're appreciating where they were. Not that they want to do it again, but there's an appreciation. Is there any way that you think that, or you have signs of that, or what? I'm just going to throw it out to you. Go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just the way the cosmic laws work. I mean, I don't think everybody sat around and had this huge plan that there would be this level of suffering and this level of oppression and having the planetary body almost die a few times. But like nature's chaotic, but it's ordered. It self-corrects. And I think along the way, when we look at just the way energy works, and we look at the regenerative power of nature and how our bodies know how to heal without us having to command it, just as long as we take good care of ourselves, it's part of nature. So if we have free will and we have egos and we can make free will choices, it's inevitable that we're going to experience the duality of light and dark. The whole tree of knowledge is based on this, and the whole tree of knowledge is based on us restoring our DNA, because the tree of knowledge is our DNA not at its highest potential, but it allows us to go through the cycles of reincarnation for us to make free will choices to either advance ourselves or to stay stuck. And the tree of life represents, our 12-strand DNA and beyond. It represents a certain level of immortality and the balance of the masculine and feminine. Well, we chose to not go that route pretty much because we would have been locked away from being able to understand our deeper origins, because there's been a lot of different seedings, not just one Adam and Eve. So it all connects to DNA, and it all connects to free will at this point. So for us to understand how we can develop ourselves on a soul level, we have to kind of go through trial and error. And this is what the zodiac represents. As we're on the path of duality, we're also given the zodiac, and it's called the wheel of necessity. And it connects us with the time loop. And it gives us a map, in a sense, of what we're working on, what our deeper soul journey represents, what agreements we've made, what our strengths and challenges are, and how we can eventually graduate. And we can activate ourselves along the way because the 12 zodiac signs connect to our DNA and the stargates on Earth. But, of course, there's a 13th sign, and the 13 connects to the mother arc and the fact that the feminine's been kicked out of this whole thing. And basically the quarantine and the process of going through the tree of good and evil has put us under a certain level of patriarchal control. But what does that end up doing at the end of the day? It makes us recognize our real worth and what we are wishing to empower, and it helps us to rise above all of it. And I think once we actually graduate, or whatever you want to call it, or really wake up and recall or reclaim our power and upgrade our DNA, why would we need to repeat it? We've kind of been there and done that, and we're all the wiser for it. I feel like this dimension is always going to be somewhat of a holding tank for souls to develop themselves, based on going through a lot of difficulty and a lot of good things, good and evil. And then there's these higher dimensions beyond that for those that are ready to move on. But, of course, there's a lot of us here that are here to assist and here to help. And, very often we end up, digressing and maybe, accumulating some sort of imbalance that we have to rectify. But ultimately, I feel that there's a grander purpose. And the higher up we get in our dimensional energy, the more of a bird's eye view we have, and the more we can see the larger picture. But the lower we are in density, the more we feel lost in the chaos of it all. But if we can elevate ourselves and just sort of look at the larger picture, there is not anything really to be concerned about except to really focus on our soul and spiritual development, and to make sure that technology is working in harmony with nature, and to call out all the injustices and to do the best we can, but not to feel like we're at the mercy of where everybody else is at. We're not going to be stuck because if other people are asleep. We really have to, not allow the darkness of this world to bring us down. We should see it more as a metaphor and understand that it does have its place. And for some, they need to be pushed to the edge to recognize what the priority is and what is really worth fighting for, which is love and things that don't cost money and things that, are just beauty in general that you don't buy at a store. People need some level of darkness to snap out of it. And it's not a very fair school. We've been manipulated and mind controlled. We've been infiltrated. But it's, just like a physical body that gets bacteria, parasites, and diseases. It still is a message for the body or the spirit within the body or soul within the body to go through that in order to wake up. And so, it's not great to empower the disease aspect, but it's certainly great to empower the message behind it in order to get the best results. And then, my gosh, that person is a force of change and of great assistance to everybody else once they get through it. And I bless all adversity. I love the process of growing from adversity. I think it's a beautiful thing. People judge it, they become a victim to it, and it doesn't get us anywhere.
Well said. Okay, this is a great time for me to mention about your grandma. Wait, I want to mention one more thing. Today I had a woman come up and give me paperwork that her religion is saying that there's only one blood type. It started with blood type O, and from O they were able to over creation, be able to mutate it into these other forms of blood types, negative RH, and all. And to me, I don't really see it, but I was wondering what your point of view was.
Yeah, the whole blood type thing. I mean, I know having more copper in the blood is the blue bloods, and, there are these elitist groups that have these blood types that we're never supposed to get all arrogant about it, because there's natural blood types that we all would have in common if we weren't being tinkered with, that they've been able to preserve. So, there's the Rh negative and Rh positive, and, connecting to whether you're off planet or more native to Earth. Blood type O, I haven't heard so much that that's the original blood. I think people kind of get lost in all that stuff. To me, consciousness trumps everything. Genetics, bloodlines, ancestors, whatever you might have done in the past, whatever is going on with your physical health. I think consciousness trumps all of it, and that's better than blood, more important than blood. I know that our blood makes us vulnerable to different things. Certain blood types can be cloned and others can't. Some blood types get abducted and others don't. And there's a reason for all this bloodline stuff, but usually it's to help a dying species or to help a race of beings that want something from your genetics because it's compatible with theirs, or there's some sort of link on a more cosmic family, soul family level. But when you're a digressed being that has cut off from source and you're relying on abductions and technology, the soul family part is not really there anymore, and it's just about, taking resources from people's physical bodies. And it's to, help with the physical aspect of it, because they're more bent on survival of the flesh rather than, the development of consciousness. And that's just where these beings have ended up, staying connected with the desire for dominance and control. So, I think that part of the bloodline or the blood energy is where there's significance and why people are talking about it. But when it comes to ascension or who you are on a soul level, the blood doesn't matter. It's just your consciousness as far as I'm concerned.
Good answer. Okay, that goes right along with what your grandmother, she came to me last night in a dream, and she actually gave me some information. And just so you guys know, it was about Laura's family, but in a positive way, but it relates to your families as well. And what she shared with me is that, number one, a soul reincarnates after 2 generations. Two generations is usually the key. And then we come back in through the mother's genetic coding, and what she needs to produce for an heir or child, she attracts that man that will give her that coding that she's looking for to push the family lineage. And this is a star line. She said that you came from a Pleiades system that was far out, and it's very mountainous. It kind of looks like the Swiss Alps, and that 6,000 years ago, your star family got the call to come here to incorporate your consciousness and blend it in with others to raise up the consciousness in general. And that you guys have like this tag team thing going on where each generation keeps pushing the consciousness up a little bit more. You push the bar up a little bit more. And it's something that, and she also said that there's something going on with other star systems too, where it's almost, in a happy, lightful way, it's a way for star families to push their key codes or their lineage up to the highest consciousness for this planet. And there's like a small little competition going on where we keep doing this tag team, and it's something that we chose to do. It's a challenge. It's fun, and this is something that we elected to do. How do you feel about that information?
Oh, it totally resonates. And that really goes along with, what was set up with the root races, that we'd be passing codes, to one another, and we'd be activating each other, and that's how we would upgrade and restore our DNA. So it's very similar to that in the wording that you put it in, that, keep kind of pushing it up a notch, keep raising the bar. And that's what, we're expected to do, and that's what, this Mother Earth is doing. As the stargates open, the children that are being born are much more advanced, because the greater mother is always birthing. And during certain dark eras where her energy was more shut down, you had a generation of kids being born that were that much more shut down. And so, it's very similar to the extensions of what we are as, different family groups, soul groups, that come in, to share that energy. And everybody's got a purpose. Even if you're coming in with not a very high vibration, then something else will come and be that alchemical unit to take it to the next level. So the more we can just own who we are and appreciate our role and know that there's no greater role or lesser role, it just only matters that we're true to ourselves and we're being authentic and genuine and not programmed. We, are like a web of life. We're like nature. We are a part of this greater mandala, and we each need to be in our diversity, because diversity and harmony is real oneness. We don't want to all be the same, but we want to have harmony in our diversity, because then we share codes, we share information, we share energy, and then we function as this beautiful system that takes care of this planet and is in harmony with her needs.
I love that idea that she showed me that, because what I didn't know before was that it's 2 generations and then we come back. And
That's
she
cool.
showed
I never heard that.
The other thing that she showed me is that your last life was you were Eisenhower's grandfather, something like that. So you went back 2 generations from him, or you were his grandfather.
Oh, that's neat.
The man that you were is a tall, thin man with dark hair. And there's a picture of him somewhere.
Oh, that's wild. Well, cool. Thank you for sharing that.
And that's the other thing, is that you guys, we're all doing this. We go to a man, to a woman, to a man, to a woman, to push everything forward, to keep raising the consciousness on the planet. So, yeah, she taught me a lot that I didn't know, and it was very loving. But she's not a soft, push-type woman. She's very strong. She's committed. She stands in her power, but she's very loving and very open. And I thought, wow, that's a lot like you, too.
Aw, that's so cool. Well, that's really neat. Right before I interviewed that you...
What?
Oh, I was just saying, it's just really cool that you had that contact before our interview.
Yeah, well, I really was a little nervous, and I thought, well, what do I say? And this has kind of been happening to me for a while now, where I get some help, and they also will participate what they think is important for all of our listeners, and they use us as examples, but you were open to it, so I really appreciate you for allowing me to tell your story. That was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
What's next on your agenda? You're doing seminars, you're traveling around the world, you're out, you got your own radio show. I mean, you're doing tons of stuff. What's next on your wish list?
Well, we have an event at Assetti Ranch, and that's going to be the weekend of I believe it's the 25th, 26th, and 27th. And I'll be doing 2 presentations, and same as my partner, and we'll be doing some session work. And it's just awesome because, of course, Assetti Ranch is just a major vortex area, just a major place to experience all sorts of multidimensional things. And I'm really excited, with just upgraded versions of my presentations. A lot of the upgrades have a lot to do with Captain K coming into my life, who I've been in contact with a lot. He's under legal authority to talk about the Mars agenda. He was on Mars for 20 years and was one of the people that defended the Mars colony. So look out for him, everybody. We're doing an interview with him coming up. So we have that, and then there is another event following that in Laytonville, and we'll be doing some sessions and a talk there. But the big one following Assetti Ranch is Contact in the Desert. That's August 8th to 10th. And all sorts of people, George Norrie, George Tsoukalis, I think I said that right, David Wilcock, Michael Tellinger, Jim Mars, Stephen Greer, Dr. Dream and I, and a bunch of others. And then in November, we have a Star Knowledge Conference. And you can check all that out on my website, cosmicgaiasophia.com. And then we have our Tuesday show at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And then we have a Wednesday show that's just usually him and I, just talking amongst ourselves. And he does an essential oil show on Monday. And I guess, the real plan, besides just doing events and doing the session work that I do, is to, maybe figure out some more things to do from home. But I am actively engaged in doing session work. So anybody who hasn't checked out what I do and offer you can go to my website, cosmicgaiasophia.com, and look under the readings link. I do astrology, soul-centered astrology, and I use other tools and modalities to just help, a person just drop the foreign energy, drop the programmings, and just get just super activated and in alignment with, your deeper mission and agreements and what you really came here to do. And I also do combined session work with my partner, and there's websites listed on my own website. I don't want to flood people with all these different email or website names, but it's called dreamteamsessions.com, and we're based out of Ventura, California.
Since we're going through this change, there's an evolution now where I believe we've hit the 5D consciousness. We've got it. We're trying to acclimate it and adjust to it, and we're getting used to the new environments around us. What kind of a recommendation? Now, this would be for somebody that is there and struggling with people in their lives that are 3D box of rocks. How do you... Yeah. What would you give them for advice, or what kind of inspiration and happy thought can you leave them with to where we're going as a species and what we can look forward to with all these new energies coming in?
Great question. Well, I mean, I think it's really important that people validate themselves and they don't let the energy of others bring them down. I mean, it's quite an achievement to be an awakened individual, and to have people that are still holding on to the old, bring your life down a notch or cause frustration or anger or any level of suffering, is still not quite all the way there. I mean, we can get exposed to all sorts of hidden truths and conspiracies, but the real awakening is just us being sovereign beings, being truly ourselves and feeling good for it, accessing more bliss, more joy, more ability to be in the now. So if there's people that are making life less than comfortable, you don't have to stop being a loving being towards them, but have a boundary and be willing to take risks and walk away, because there's a whole world of people that are going to completely relate to you and a whole bunch of experiences that are going to just change your reality and be more of a genuine reflection of what you're really made of on the inside. To sit around and be dealing with props and sort of like what looks like a TV set of the old Matrix stuff with a bunch of people that are still buying into it, it doesn't want to, you're not going to want to uphold it. It's going to be very draining and difficult, unless you're the one that tries to wake everybody up and they're just making you feel like you're crazy. Just feel empowered to walk away. I went from having like 2 friends, once everybody thought that I was totally nuts, to just really finding community and finding like-minded people and people that take me seriously. I mean, it's a huge planet with a lot of people. And play with energy and don't have a false sense of security based on matrix laws and rules. Really start to connect to the abundance of the universe, the adventure of life, the truth of what you're made of. And whoever can't handle it, let them fall away and start to embrace the new, because that's what we have to do energetically to move into new earth energies anyway. So let your life be a living example of your willingness to do it personally, to watch it happen globally.
I know that you see the post of stuff coming down, the systems. What kind of new systems do you see from your perspective that are coming that are more ethical and for the benefit of society, so we can enhance our consciousness or spirituality and love the world we're on?
What was the first part of the question, though?
The new systems coming in, like financial systems, banking systems, what's happening with the religion? What do you see happening with the new religion, if there's any? Where do you see society moving to?
I think people are going to get a lot more localized, a lot more connected to their soul family, kind of like the birds of the feather. Find people that you relate to, share skills, share gifts and abilities, find a way to just create that nucleus, like family's the ultimate government. And just bringing things back close to home, your partnerships, your relationships, your friendships, the people that you trust, the people you can count on, the people you feel good about, or at least allowing yourself to have enough solitary time and space to be true to yourself, to then attract the people that you can count on, because you're learning to count on yourself. I think we're going to stop externalizing things so much and counting on outer things like religion and government. I think new governments and religions are going to be not about, New World Order, not about trying to reel people in, but things that give people an inkling that this is for our empowerment. This is for us to develop ourselves. And anything that doesn't promote that, I would be very watchful of, because that would be another form of control. And that happens in a lot of New Age communities. It's just different lingo, but same sort of model. So I don't know what's coming down the pike so much, but I think the things that we should look out for and empower and be leaders in our own right to start to bring out and offer to the world has everything to do with how to empower others, how to be true to yourself, how to develop your own skills and abilities so that you can offer those up, how to, stay aligned with your passions and to follow your heart. And how are those how-tos? By just simply doing it and giving yourself permission. And then it starts to ripple out, and everybody else, finds that, oh, my God, this feels good, this feels right. And then everything else is trying to take our energy and take our power and manipulate us out of this birthright won't have anything to feed on anymore. And I think we all need to take a stand and not wait for anything to show up, but to take the initiative ourselves and start to inspire other people to do the same, and then something's going to rise from the human race. And all the things that are being overlaid on us and projected upon us to join in or agree with, will be actually looking to us and saying, hey, we want to be a voice for what is already taking place amongst all of us that are beginning to unify and recognize ourselves as a global family. I think everything's going to come from the people, and the leaders are going to have to adjust to that rather than the other way around.
Thank you for that, and thank you for empowering everybody. Thank you for coming on to the show. I love you. I think you're wonderful.
Oh, I love you, and thank you so much for having me. I've loved the questions, and I always love connecting with you. So we'll definitely be in touch, and thank you, everybody who, showed up.
Yeah, and keep us abreast to where you're going and learning new things, because I know going to these new areas, you're going to be open to new ideas and new thoughts, especially since you're as intuitive as you are.
Yes, I'll definitely keep you posted, and we'll stay in touch, and I hope you'll do the same with me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and we'll be in touch. Bye,
okay, great.
Sweetie.
Okay, bye.
All right, everybody. That's Laura Eisenhower, and she gave you her website. You can check it out on the video. The YouTube video should go up shortly, and you'll be able to follow more of her information. We'll have pictures, and there'll probably be a picture of her website and how to get in touch with her. I would stay in touch with her or keep an eye on her, because she's really got her finger on the pulse of what's going on. And if you notice, there's no ego, there's no judgment, there's no mandatory, you have to listen, you have to obey. It's all opened up freely. And because she has that type of attitude and her energy is that way, that means that the universe is going to be bringing her some really important information. So it's worth keeping an eye on her and seeing where her career goes. It's going to be very exciting. So as we move forward, I agree with Laura. Empower yourself. Don't be afraid to stick up for yourself, and start putting boundaries up on the negative people. The only way that you're going to be able to wake them up, essentially, is by no longer accepting negativity and just create the positive environments around you. The more that you do that, the stronger you're going to become, the more you can put manifesting skills to work, and then you start that positive reinforcement cycle where you win, win, win. So you want to start working that way. Do not be attached. It's not your responsibility to heal, fix, or cure other people. It's theirs. Your only responsibility is you. And the more that you love you and have trust and faith in you, the more powerful you're going to be able to come, and the more that you're going to become more in tune with your higher self, the more that you're going to be able to manifest everything that you want, okay? If there is anything that's going on in your life that's negative right now, just realize that you might have changed your smile, but the mirror, which is the universe, your external world, is still reflecting to you what you might have created weeks ago or months ago. So just hang tight. The mirror's going to change. Watch what's going on with our world. Don't get caught up. It's all going to change. Eat lots of chocolate. And look for those people that need a helping hand, that are genuine. Okay? Love you guys. See you next week. Alfred Weber.
Thank you for listening. These shows are designed to help you develop your truth. If you are not ready for it, or if it does not fit with you, leave it behind. Videos of the shows are available on Sam Mugzi's channel on YouTube. If you would like a private consultation with Dr. Sam Mugzzi, you can find her on empoweringbetterhealth.com. Or for a private reading with one of our advanced psychics, check out predictmyfuture.com. Until then, see you next week. Be safe, have fun, and break some rules.